Another day, another disaster hearing on Capitol Hill, and this one might be the most telling yet. For weeks, months even, Donald Trump has stood squarely behind Robert F. Kennedy Jr., the man he handpicked to run America's health and human services. He praised him, defended him, cheered him on through every controversy. But after today's Senate hearing, Trump's tune changed. Suddenly, he wasn't offering his trademark full-throated support. Suddenly, there was hesitation in his voice. And when Trump hesitates, you know the situation is bad. Let's set the stage. The Republican leadership had a choice. They could finally release the Epstein files, something they've teased for months. They could shine light on corruption and scandal. But instead, they chose to drag RFK Jr. into the Senate chamber, sit him down under oath, and ask the questions Americans have been asking themselves for months. What are you actually doing, Secretary Kennedy? And the first line of questioning was brutal. Senators reminded him, for the first time in 2 decades, America is seeing children die of measles. 2 decades without a single child death from this preventable disease, erased in just months under Kennedy's leadership. "Sir, you're a charlatan," one senator fired back. "You're the one conflating chronic disease with the need for vaccines." They accused him of undermining the very foundation of public health. And then came the next blow. If this administration claims to be lowering costs, what exactly is Kennedy doing to keep health care affordable for seniors? Kennedy fumbled. He tried to argue he's already keeping costs down. But here's the reality. 17 million Americans are about to be kicked off Medicaid. 7 million of them are seniors. And studies make it clear, these cuts will lead to thousands of deaths. Thousands. That's not cost-cutting, that's life-cutting. By Kennedy's logic, if you deny health care altogether, you've solved the affordability problem, because the dead don't pay bills. This is the man Trump installed at HHS. Ever since Kennedy abandoned his doomed presidential campaign, trading his denim jeans and work boots for a cabinet position, he's been at the center of storm after storm. He's fired veteran staff by the dozens. He's rejected data submitted by thousands of doctors and scientists around the world. He's turned a department meant to protect Americans into a political circus. The nation has never seen public health this politicized. And through it all, Trump backed him 100%. Until today. When reporters asked Trump if he still had confidence in his chosen secretary, the response was telling. Gone were the bold proclamations. Gone was the cheerleading. Instead, Trump stammered, "Well, I didn't get to watch the hearings today. He's a very good person. He means very well. He's got some different ideas. I heard he did very well today, but it's not your standard talk." That's not support. That's an exit ramp. Trump, who gushes over Vladimir Putin with more passion, could only muster lukewarm, "he means well" lines for his own cabinet secretary. If Kennedy wants to win Trump's love back, maybe he really does have to start bombing Ukraine. But let's look at Kennedy's own defense. Senators pressed him on the backlash to his policies. Thousands of doctors and scientists have sounded the alarm, warning his changes will damage American healthcare for decades. Kennedy's response? "I don't get those letters. I'll put my mailbag against your mailbag any day of the week." Yes, you heard right. A contest over whose fan mail is bigger. The fate of the nation's healthcare reduced to a petty mailbag competition. When senior senators warn that you're jeopardizing lives and your response is, "My inbox is bigger than yours," you're not leading, you're losing. And then came the firing scandal. Senators demanded to know why Kennedy dismissed CDC Director Susan Minoris just a month after hiring her. His answer was surreal. "I asked her if she was a trustworthy person. She said no, so I asked her to resign." Picture that exchange. The Secretary of Health, responsible for safeguarding millions of lives, decides to hire someone described by experts as having unimpeachable scientific credentials. Then, weeks later, he asks if she's trustworthy. She allegedly says no. And that's the end of her career. No due process, no evaluation, just a bizarre back and forth that sounds like a parody of office politics. If this is how Kennedy handles personnel decisions, imagine how he's handling national crises. But it didn't stop there. Senators pushed him on his endorsement of Trump's so-called Big Beautiful Bill to slash healthcare funding. The cuts are massive. $150 billion taken from rural hospitals, nursing homes, and healthcare centers. Kennedy's spin? It's the biggest infusion of federal dollars into rural healthcare in history. Except it's not even close. Because here's what's really happening. Slash $150 billion, add $50 billion back, and call it an infusion. That's not an infusion, it's a $100 billion deficit. It's like getting robbed of $1,000, then watching the thief hand you $50 back and being told you should feel grateful. By Kennedy's math, theft equals generosity. By Kennedy's math, loss equals gain. But the math isn't mathing. Then came the most chilling moment of the hearing. Virginia Senator Mark Warner tried to establish a baseline of fact. Would you accept the fact that 1 million Americans died from COVID? Kennedy's answer, I don't know how many died. Nobody knows. Think about that. The Secretary of Health and Human Services, the person tasked with managing public health crises, claims not to know how many Americans died in the single deadliest public health emergency of the century. Over 1 million deaths, meticulously recorded, tracked, and mourned. And yet, in Kennedy's version of reality, the numbers are too chaotic to count. Imagine the implications. If you can't acknowledge the death toll of COVID, how can you possibly prepare for the next pandemic? If you dismiss data as chaotic, how do you ensure vaccines, treatments, and prevention strategies are effective? Kennedy's refusal to accept basic facts isn't just incompetence, it's dangerous. But here's where things took a turn. It wasn't only Democrats grilling him. Even Republican senators voiced unease. Senator Bill Cassidy reminded Kennedy that in his confirmation hearings, he promised to uphold vaccine standards. Yet, before joining Trump's administration, Kennedy spent years suing to restrict vaccine access. Cassidy didn't mince words. He said he was deeply concerned. That's extraordinary. Republicans have rallied behind Trump through scandal after scandal. They've shrugged off a transportation secretary who can't keep planes from grounding. They've looked the other way at a defense secretary accused of sexual misconduct. They've tolerated a Justice Department and FBI that swept Epstein's crimes under the rug. But Kennedy? Somehow, he's the bridge too far. And that should tell you something. Because Kennedy isn't just undermining public health. He's undermining the very credibility of the Republican Party. Trump's cabinet has been filled with questionable figures, but Kennedy's mix of arrogance, ignorance, and outright recklessness is exposing fractions even within the GOP. By the end of the hearing, one truth was undeniable. RFK Jr. is unfit for his position. He doesn't know the data, he doesn't respect the science, he doesn't understand the math. He fires experts based on bizarre exchanges. He spins catastrophic cuts as historic infusions. He treats life and death policy like a popularity contest. And the most telling part? Trump knows it. That hesitation in Trump's voice wasn't just a slip, it was a sign. A sign that even Trump, who thrives on chaos, recognizes Kennedy's chaos could cost him politically. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. has managed to achieve what few have before him: public criticism from Republicans themselves. That is no small feat. For a man with an R next to his name to face open fire from his own party, it's like scaling Everest or swimming the English Channel. An almost impossible accomplishment. But let's be clear, this isn't just political theater. Real lives are on the line. Children dying of measles, seniors losing health care, rural hospitals shuttering, a nation still reeling from a pandemic now led by a man who claims not to know how many died. This is more than incompetence, it's negligence at the highest level. And so, as the hearing adjourns, we're left with the verdict. Robert F. Kennedy Jr. is not the protector of public health. He is a danger to it. His leadership is reckless, his math is broken, and his tenure has already proven disastrous. The Republican Party can look away no longer. And Donald Trump, who once offered unwavering support, is now quietly stepping back. Because when the Secretary of Health and Human Services doesn't know how many died, doesn't know the value of science, and doesn't know the difference between addition and subtraction, one thing is certain: the math isn't mathing. And that, ladies and gentlemen, is the case against Robert F. Kennedy Jr. Another day, another disaster.